Most people rush to choose an intention word, but a word needs ground to take root. Before you choose your word, there's something more important to do. Hi, I'm Rebecca-Monique. I'm an accredited grief and trauma coach, and I've been working with intention words as a reflective practice for nearly a decade. Not as goals, not as resolutions, but as a way of orienting how we live. In this 3-part series, I'm going to guide you through how to choose an intention word that actually fits the reality that you're meeting today, how to discern the type of word that's right for you, and how to live it in a way that lasts beyond the first few weeks. But in this first part, we're not choosing a word just yet. We're slowing down, because the most important work happens before the word arrives. This video is about looking back, locating yourself in the present, and gently sensing forward, not to plan the future, but to understand what this phase of your life is asking of you. Whether you're watching this at the beginning of a year, the middle of one, or at a moment of transition, this process still applies. Because intention isn't tied to dates, it's tied to readiness. This 3-part series sits alongside a reflective workbook that I've created, designed to support this process more fully than a few videos ever could. If you want to follow this more slowly, the workbook includes the full guide, the essay, and a library of 250 intention words to explore at your own pace. You can download it via the link in the description. So let's take a moment to locate where we are in the process. In this first video, part 1, we're focusing on preparation. Part 2 is about choosing the word, and part 3 is about living the word through embodiment. To help us settle into this video, here's a simple map of what we'll cover together. We'll begin by clearing some common misunderstandings about intention. I'll then share a few excerpts from my essay to ground this work more deeply. And finally, we'll move through the 3 preparatory lenses that support choosing a word with the utmost care. That's looking back, locating yourself now, and gently sensing forward. You don't need to remember everything. You don't even need to write anything down right now. This is simply an overview. The fuller practices live in the workbook. I've included a section on preparing your space and your mind before beginning this process, including pacing, environment, and how to arrive without pressure. You don't need to do that now. This video is here to gently direct you. So, if and when you're ready, let's begin. Before we define intention in practical terms, it's worth looking briefly at the word itself. Intention comes from the Latin intendere, which means to stretch towards or to direct one's attention. And what I love about that is that intention isn't about control or certainty. It's about orientation, about where your attention, your energy, and your choices are being gently drawn over time. An intention word doesn't tell you exactly what to do. It helps you to notice how you're moving through a year, a chapter, or a period of your life. An intention word isn't a task to complete or a promise to keep. It's a chosen way of being, a quiet anchor that speaks to who you're becoming, not just what you're doing. To understand why intention words matter, it helps to distinguish them from the terms that they're often confused with. People tend to use intention, goals, resolution, and outcome interchangeably, but they play very different roles. At the foundation, we have intention. Intention is the inner orientation, the identity level anchor. It shapes how we show up. From there come resolutions, the behavioral promises that we make to ourselves. Then goals, the specific measurable targets. And finally, outcomes, what unfolds when those layers are aligned. Intention shapes resolutions, resolutions guide goals, goals produce outcomes. So without intentions, resolutions drift, and goals can feel hollow or unsustainable. Intention is the spine. Let me give you one simple example. Say your intention word is boundaried. That's not a goal, it's an identity orientation. Someone who honors their limits and capacity. From there, a resolution might sound like, I'll communicate my needs more clearly and say no when something doesn't align. A goal could be saying no to at least one request each week that drains me. And the outcome might be feeling less overwhelmed, more spacious, more connected to the people who respect your limits. What matters here is the order. The word shapes who you're becoming, and everything else flows from that. So, when are intention words used? Although many people choose an intention word at the start of a calendar year, they're not tied to January. They can be chosen at any threshold moment. A birthday, an anniversary, a new job or project, the end of a relationship, a recovery, a move, or a moment where life quietly or loudly asks you to reset. Intention is timeless. You can choose a word whenever clarity or grounding is needed. And what about multiple words? I tend to use the phrase intention word in the singular simply for clarity, but many people do hold more than one. And if that's you, let one word act as your central anchor and allow the others to support or regulate it. Think of them as satellites orbiting a sun. For most people, more than 3 become noise rather than guidance. A meaningful intention word can guide decisions, regulate pace, support boundaries, and create coherence across different areas of life. It helps you move through uncertainty without forcing answers. Your intention word becomes a quiet companion, not something that you perform, but something that you return to. And with that clarity in place, let's pause here. Rather than seeing intention words as something that we use, it may help to view them as something that we enter into. In my accompanying essay, The Word That Finds You, Intention, Magic, and the Power of Naming Your Year, I explore this practice more slowly through story, interruption, and lived experience. I'm going to share a couple of short excerpts now to help set the tone for what comes next. As you listen or read, you don't need to take any notes or hold on to anything. Just notice what responds within you. Chrononormativity is a term used to describe the invisible timelines that shape how we believe our lives should unfold. It's the pressure to move at the right pace, to reach milestones on time, and to keep producing even when our bodies and our inner lives are asking for something different. Over time, that pressure teaches us to distrust slowness and to treat rest as something that we have to earn. We begin to mistake constant movement for progress, without ever pausing to ask what our lives are actually asking of us. When we select intention words without questioning these pressures, we often end up choosing from urgency rather than truth. Here I'm reflecting on how intention words don't stay theoretical when life interrupts us. When something real happens, something that strips away illusion, a word stops being an idea and starts becoming a teacher. Not by rescuing us, but by revealing what matters, what's been ignored, and what can no longer be rushed. In moments of shock and release, the body often meets the word before the mind does. I'm going to pause here and offer 3 reflection prompts. You don't need to answer them fully, just notice what stirs. What part of my life feels overgrown, rushed, or shaped by someone else's timeline? And what becomes possible if I reclaimed my own pace? When was the last time that life collapsed in a way that forced me to meet myself more honestly? What did I see that I could not unsee? If my body could choose my intention word for me, what would it ask for? What does my nervous system long for? What does my breath crave? What these reflections point to is this: before choosing an intention word, we need to slow down enough to notice what our lives and our bodies are already responding to. If this is resonating with you so far, you're welcome to like this video, subscribe, or leave a comment. I'll be sharing more work like this on here, on this channel, slowly over time. Let's take a moment to check in on where we're at. So far, we've named why intention is different from goals or resolutions. We've questioned the timelines and the pressures that we inherit. And we've begun to notice how a word doesn't arrive on command, but through lived experience. Here's how we'll move through the rest of the video. We're going to be looking back to notice what shaped you. Then we'll locate where you are now, emotionally, relationally, somatically. And finally, we'll gently sense forward to listen for what's asking to emerge, rather than trying to predict the future. And remember, this process isn't about rushing to a word, but creating the conditions for one to arrive. Okay? Before we choose anything, we're going to do something deceptively simple. We're going to meet ourselves where we actually are. We'll begin by looking back at the past year because it carries information. It leaves traces in the body, in our energy, and in the choices that you made to survive, adapt, or endure. And if we skip this step, we risk choosing a word that sounds good, but isn't honest. In the guide, this section is spacious. For today, I'm going to walk you through 3 core practices that help you gather what matters without getting lost in the detail. In exercise 1, we look at what happened. So this practice is simple, but it's more revealing than it looks. You're not trying to remember everything. You're noticing what rises without force. Begin by gently revisiting the chapters of your year. Consider what unfolded. Physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, relationally, socially, financially, energetically, creatively. To jog your memory, look through your camera roll, your notes app, journal entries, calendar reminders, emails, screenshots, voice notes, any objects or places that hold memories. You don't need to capture the whole year. A few moments are enough. What matters is what stays with you. And once you've gathered a sense of what unfolded, the next step is to see it over time. In this timeline mapping exercise, you'll create a simple year at a glance using 12 small boxes, 1 for each month. In each box, note a key event, the emotional tone, a phrase that captures the month, anything that stands out, even if it seems small. If a full 12-month review feels overwhelming, you can focus on the 5 to 7 months that carry the strongest emotional imprint for you. All the months where you felt most alive, most tired, most uncertain, or most changed. At the end of this, you'll begin to see patterns emerging. There's one layer of the past year that's easy to miss: invisible work. The moments that no one witnessed, the things that you carried alone, the inner labor that didn't produce visible outcomes, but changed you nonetheless. This is where many people realize that they've done far more than they gave themselves credit for. It's important to name it, to honor it, to claim it. When you hold the past year this way, you're listening to what it taught you. Once you've looked back at the past year, something usually becomes clearer. Not what you should do next, but where you actually are. This next section is about the present moment, not as a snapshot, but as a living landscape. Your energy, your values, your capacity, your needs. And in this guide, this section includes a few different ways to locate yourself now. There's a values exercise as well as a psychosomatic needs check-in, where you listen for what your nervous system is asking for. Things like stillness, novelty, structure, or connection. For this video, we're going to focus on one core practice from this section, the whole self compass. It's a way of seeing your life as a whole without collapsing everything into one area or one problem. It's made up of 8 areas, not just what you do, but how you live and how you feel. As you look at the compass, you'll see areas that relate to your health, your relationships, your work, your sense of purpose, your finances, your rest, your home, your environment, your growth, and your capacity for joy. For each segment, you simply ask, how resourced do I feel here right now? You might use a scale such as 0 to 10, or low, medium, high, or you might just notice whether something feels nourished, strained, or depleted. Choose the method that feels the kindest to your nervous system. When you step back and look at the whole picture, what matters isn't the score, but the pattern that's emerging. This compass helps you to see where your energy is flowing and where it's quietly leaking or under-resourced. As you look at your compass, you might feel tempted to analyze it. Instead, stay with curiosity. Here are a few questions that you can gently hold as you look at each area. What feels steady or nourished here? What feels tender, neglected, or stretched thin? Where am I unexpectedly thriving? Now remember that you don't need long answers. Once you've taken it in as a whole, step back and notice the patterns. Which area feels most in need of care this year? Which area feels strong enough to support the others? This exercise isn't about deciding your intention word yet, though your intention word might begin to whisper from one of these areas. It's about letting the map show you where attention, energy, or gentleness might be needed. You don't need to fix what you see here. This compass isn't a judgment of your life. It's a mirror, held kindly so that you can move forward with awareness. Just notice it. Awareness is already movement. Once you've looked back and located where you are now, the next step is listening forward. Think of this as soft visioning, a way of noticing what matters, what's already on the path, and who you're becoming. The first practice here is a priority scan. It helps to name what sits at the center of your life right now, because priorities shift as we shift. Look across the different areas of your life. Your relationships, your work, your health, your home, your creativity, your rest, your joy. Ask yourself, what are my top 3 priorities for the year ahead? Not what should matter, but what genuinely does. You might also reflect on why these matter now, and which of them needs the most care or attention. Write them gently. Your priorities don't need to be impressive, but they do need to be honest. Once you've named what matters, the next step is to acknowledge what's already coming, the known landscape. This practice is about looking ahead at the year you already know something about, the events, commitments, or transitions that are already on the horizon. This could be travel, celebrations, new roles, health appointments, creative projects, periods of rest that you want to protect. This exercise isn't intended to micromanage your year, but to acknowledge the terrain that you'll be walking through. You might ask yourself, what will shape the energy I'll need this year? Where might I need more spaciousness? And where might I need structure or support? Remember, your intention word should work with the life that you're living, not against it. When you hold the past, the present, and the year ahead this way, your word doesn't need to be forced because it just begins to make sense. Before you move on, you might want to pause with this question. Which insight or feeling from part 1 wants to stay close as I move into the next stage? Let that answer be simple. A word, a sensation, a quiet knowing. And a reminder before we continue that you don't need to do every exercise in the workbook. This isn't a syllabus, it is an invitation. So follow what you feel drawn to, skip what feels premature, and return to what asks for more time. This kind of reflection can stir things, memories, emotions, truths that have been waiting for space. Pace yourself, take breaks, Let the work unfold at a speed that your nervous system can hold. To ground where we are, here's what we've explored so far. We looked back at the past year, what happened, how it moved through time, and the invisible work that you carried. We located where you are now across the whole of your life, not just one part. And we gently cast forward, naming priorities and the landscape already ahead of you. In the next video, we'll move into choosing your intention word from a place of resonance, meaning, and alignment. We'll explore the different paths and the types of intention words and how to sense for which one is actually right for you. Take care of yourself as you move with this. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, be well.